welcome back to the 18th century! Today our time machine has traveled back to the era of Marie Antoinette, and I will be showing you a historically accurate makeup tutorial based on the practices and principles that were popular during this century. Cosmetics were worn proudly during this time, and makeup was not applied to look natural at all. In fact, the more you had on your face, the more fashionable and the higher your social class was. And this was true of both men and women. Both women and men alike show their social class through white skin. The whiter you could get your skin to look, the higher your social class. So even if you already had pale skin, white makeup was still applied over the top of that to make it appear even more pale. And there were two reasons why pale skin and this practice were put into place. If you had tan skin during this time, it meant that you were lower class and unattractive because it meant that you were working out in the sun all day and you either had a job as a peasant or a servant. And the other reason they applied thick, heavy layers of white makeup to the face was because smallpox was a rampant disease during this time, and it left a lot of survivors with scars on the face. So to combat that, they applied a lot of makeup to help cover the scars. They also used something called beauty patches during this time, which I will go in much more depth about later on in the video. Key aspects of makeup in the 18th century are thick layers of white paint applied to the face, large streaks of rouge on the cheeks, and beauty patches. So let me show you a historically accurate makeup tutorial based on Marie Antoinette and the 18th century.
So who is Marie Antoinette? She was the last queen of France and married to King Louis XVI. She had a fabulously extravagant lifestyle, spending upwards of $2.5 million each year on clothing and shoes. And that is a rough estimate based on the French currency of the time translated to inflation standards to today's US dollar. As you can imagine, this created a lot of anger among the French people, earning her the nickname Madame Deficit. One of the most popular misattributed quotes to Marie Antoinette is the phrase, "let them eat cake." And despite popular belief, Marie Antoinette never said this. And this was something that was most likely started by the people of France that loathed her. That phrase was actually said 100 years earlier by the wife of King Louis XIV. It was a callous, ignorant statement, and Marie Antoinette was neither. So, to start this look, we're going to begin with the eyes. For the most part, the eyes were left bare in the 18th century, although I did find some reference to eye kohl being used by Marie Antoinette, and in the article I read, it said that she would rim her eyes with the eye kohl. But when I look at pictures of her, she didn't look like she had raccoon eyes. So I'm going to keep this eyeliner focused more so on the upper waterline and the lower waterline. No mention of eyeshadow or mascara in this time period because mascara really wasn't invented until the early 1900s. If you've seen the other historically accurate videos I've done, there was mention of scented sticks of pomade that Marie Antoinette would apply onto her lips, eyebrows, and eyelashes, but I'm not going to do that here because I don't know if my eyes would react too well to me applying gloss on them. I'm first applying a moisturizer beforehand, and this will help the foundation and the concealer that I'm applying to blend into the skin a little bit better. And to begin the face application, I'm applying my concealer. This is from MAC. It's in the shade NC15. I'm using this to cover up the purple circles underneath my eyes. For the foundation, I am already super pale, but I went with a shade that was even lighter than me, if you can believe it. This is from Graftobian. It's in the shade Ivory. And I'm blending this into the skin with a beauty blender. The most popular white makeup that was used on the face was made of lead, and they were popular for their opacity. But there were a lot of deaths from lead poisoning during this time, and even though the people of the 18th century knew about lead poisoning, they still continued to use these makeup products on their face. Crazy, right? The things we do for beauty, even in the 18th century. And as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, the white paint was really packed on the face to help hide any scars that may have existed from having smallpox, and also to make the skin appear more pale. And I forgot to include this in the video. I would have liked to have, but I'll mention it here real quick. One of the other things they did was trace their veins with blue to highlight and emphasize the whiteness of the skin even more. So if you wanted to recreate a look like this, if you went over your veins with a blue pencil, that would be a great way to imitate the 18th century look. And then I'm setting the face with a translucent powder. I'm using the one from Ben Nye. It is a colorless powder, but it is white in color, and to me, I always feel like it leaves my face looking a little chalky, and so that's why I used it in this look. Eyebrows were half moon shaped with tapered ends, and they could be darkened with a variety of different things. Some of the things they used to darken the brows were coal, elderberries, burnt cork, or black soot from oil lamps. Men and women who were members of the French court would sometimes pluck and paint their eyebrows in, and occasionally they also wore false brows made from, get this, mouse fur. I'd say that if men only knew what we did for beauty, but it appears men were doing this same practice too, so I really can't say that. Cheeks were very emphasized, and for this look I'm using one from MAC. This is in the shade Breezy. In the 18th century, your rouge application would vary depending on where you were living at the time. If you were part of the French court, you wore it in a wide pattern that went from the corner of the eye to the corner of the lips. But if you were part of the provincial nobility or the middle class, you wore it in neater circular patterns at the center of the cheeks, and this is how Marie Antoinette applied it. And so that's what I've done here. I'm applying it in more of that circular pattern directly onto the center of the cheek. And if you do create a Marie Antoinette look like this is one of those instances where my fair-skinned friends do not have to worry about how much blush you apply, because more is better. Red makeup was made from a variety of different ingredients in the 18th century. There were two main ones that were incredibly toxic, including vermilion, which contained mercury, and something called carmine, which was a lead-based pigment. However, there were some vegetable sources that were used to create some red makeup at this time, including safflower, wood resin, sandalwood, and Brazil wood. From my understanding, these were powders, and then they were mixed in with greases, creams, or vinegar to make a paste and then applied onto the face. Lips could be reddened with distilled alcohol or vinegar, and by the middle of the century, red pomades were being sold for the lips, and the shades did vary. Red was the most popular color, but you did also see pinks, corals, and sometimes deeper burgundy shades. So I decided to go with red, and I'm using Chanel's number 444 lipstick here. And to finish the look, I'm applying a couple of beauty patches, but I'm using a liquid eyeliner to recreate these on the face. This is one from Ardency In. Beauty patches were typically made from silk velvet, satin, or taffeta, and they were attached to the face with glue. They were often cut into shapes such as moons, stars, and hearts, and their placement on the face had a very distinct meaning. I was able to find this chart. It's written in French though, so my French people may be able to help me translate it, and this describes what each placement on the face meant. The two placements I'm using in this look are by the lip and then one up by the eye, and Marie Antoinette would often apply a beauty patch near her lip, and this signaled her desire to be kissed, which was very flirtatious at this time. Marie Antoinette survived a childhood bout of smallpox, and she emerged from it relatively unscathed, but she still enjoyed the fashionable nature of the beauty patches and applied them often. And to pull everything together, I'm applying a big ol' wig. And wigs were actually very popular among men in the 18th century. Women did not wear wigs as much, but hair extensions were very popular. So they would really pile on the hair extensions, and big hair was in. And they did powder their hair. And one thing I found really interesting from one of the articles I was reading is that redheads were very unpopular in the 18th century. If you had red hair, it was not a good thing, so I would not have fit in very well. And from my understanding, Marie Antoinette was a natural strawberry blonde. And I could not finish this video without showing you a little bit more of the dress that I found online. This is 18th century to a T. Utterly fabulous.
I hope you enjoyed our trip to the 18th century today, and if you'd like to see more videos like this, I will have the full playlist linked for you below and at the end of the video. Let me know where you would like our time machine to travel to next, and please subscribe so that you'll be notified of new historically accurate videos as they're released. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.